All right, here for the post-match interview. First of all, as always, to begin with, just big thank you to both our players. Chris for driving up from Indianapolis. Ryan for filling in like like an hour notice. Really appreciate both of you guys. Any players who ever come here and play, I just respect and honor a lot. So thank you guys for that. Ryan, I'll start with you. What was this experience like being a competitive tennis player, playing in high school, playing in college, playing tournaments? What was the experience like for you playing here for the first time?
You know, honestly, it's kind of like a bucket list experience because I've seen so many people play, you know, on your channel, and I've seen Mark's channel as well. And I've always kind of intended to be like, maybe I should reach out to one of those guys and be like, can I just do it once for fun? You know, you can play like college coach plays, you know, 4.5 from Indy or something like that. And it was great to be here. I loved it.
Nice. You talk a little bit about the mental side of it. How does it compare to you compared to other competition that you've done?
You know, it was similar in that the nerves get you for the first like game that you return, and then the first game that you serve, and then, you know, midway through that set I felt a lot more comfortable, especially in that second set. I was kind of like, okay, I'm in more of a groove now. I'm not so worried about anything else that's going on. And there always is, you know, when you play in front of anybody, especially people you respect like you guys, there's that, I hope I don't embarrass myself too much. You know, like I hope I don't go out there and double fault entire games away. I hope I don't go out there and just make a ton of errors. So once you kind of get over that initial like, okay, I'm in some games, I can play some points, then it was a lot smoother.
It's like the closest thing to the state tournament in high school.
Yeah.
It's like you just have those butterflies, and you can't help it no matter how much you try to prepare for it.
And some people I don't think ever really get through that stage. So they just play the whole match with those butterflies and just can't reach their normal level. So
For sure. Chris, my first question for you, if you can think back to the first set, you were down 2-4, down a break, and there was a pretty significant momentum shift that happened. You looked a little bit out of sorts, I guess, the beginning of the first set, and you really turned things around to come back. What can you talk us through that a little bit? What adjustments did you make internally or like tactics-wise to make that shift?
Right. If I remember, I know that on return, I tried really hard to get the ball back. Even if I hit it short or, you know, I just wanted to get the ball back in the court and try to get rallies started and stuff. And so I started to do better on returns, on return games. And on my serve, I think I was trying to hit a heavier ball. I think I took pace off my serve.
Okay.
And I started to try to hit a little heavier serve, and then just try to keep the ball as deep as I could, especially with my forehand. I really didn't hit backhands the way I wanted to. That kind of fell apart early, but I mean, he was good. He hit a lot of balls. We've had some really long rallies and stuff, which I like those, and but he hit some good shots in those rallies and stuff. But I just tried to really keep the ball deep and hit my forehand a little heavier, and I guess it worked for a little while.
Was it, and I just build off that, was it a little surprising in, you know, being the figure that Ryan is, tall, big guy, supposed to have a big first serve, big forehand, was it a little kind of surprising that all of a sudden during that first set, like that he was showing that like, hey, I can like kind of grind too, and I'm not just going to give you, you know, a bunch of unforced errors that you could potentially build off of?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that, I mean, going into it, of course I don't know him, but that's what I thought, is that I would, if worst comes to worst, I get a lot of balls back and draw some errors. But he was good at not doing that. So it was fun. I mean, the first set was fun. I really hate losing. So
it was a great set.
But it was good.
Mm-hmm. It felt to Michael and I that in the first set you came out of the gate almost kind of trying to be the aggressor and like trying to dictate points. Was that a conscious thing?
Yeah, it was. That's what I was saying. That kind of like my plan B was I'll just get a lot of balls back. But I really wanted to hit through the ball and be aggressive, and that's what I wanted. I actually started I was really disappointed after the first set. I started the second set. If you look back at those first two games, I was really trying to hit the ball, and I would hit two good hard heavy forehands, and then I'd miss one, and I couldn't get enough, and then it just all went away from me. But yeah, that was the plan.
So, and to build up, so Ryan, and from the other side, and your perspective, as you know, as a big hitter, someone who's supposed to kind of hit big, what was kind of your mindset in? Because it seemed like Ian and I were saying that like you were constantly kind of going in between. You know, you were grinding some balls up, but then if the situation presented itself, then there were for a period of time you were being more aggressive. You were stepping up. Like, how were you gauging the fact that you're playing against someone who's going to get a lot of balls back? You kind of figured that out. How did you kind of know when to grind and then kind of when to be aggressive?
Yeah, that's a great question and really astute observation, because that's exactly what was happening the whole time. I went out at first and I wanted to see how Chris was going to play. I don't know how he plays at all. I had no idea really if he was a grinder. I watched like 5 minutes of him playing Ian before to try to like prep myself for the match. But when he was going out and firing and I was counterpunching and winning points off it, I was like, okay, this is my base of what I'm going to do. And until he starts grinding more and takes me out of that, then I'm just going to keep doing this and hopefully continue to get the errors. So what happened then was, as he started to get more balls in play, I started to feel a little more comfortable with my game and started to try to go a little bigger, but then started to make more errors. So that comfort with the match almost led me to trying to go and do too much. So I had to try to rein it in and only really go for it, when the opportunity presented itself. And as I got more comfortable and hit more balls back in play and started to hit a little bit bigger, then it was easier for me to kind of dictate play, which happened in the second set a lot more.
Yeah, it felt to Michael and I, like in the second set in particular, that you rode that line of like offense versus consistency really, really well. We were both really impressed by your ability to, as a bigger guy with like big weapons, to be able to just put a lot of balls in play in addition to that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I've actually seen a surprising amount of bigger players that have some touch and are willing to counterpunch. And I'm willing to run around all day and pop balls back in play. But yeah, I mean, after that first set, which was really competitive, that tiebreak obviously could have gone either way. I felt like Chris, was a little bit on the lower end in the emotional level, and I was a little bit on the higher end. So I was able to kind of get really comfortable with just hitting how I wanted to hit, and then the misses kind of built up a little bit more from there. So that's kind of how the second set went the way that it did.
Because then from what our perspective in the second set, it was like, as Ian just said, this like, whereas kudos to you, where it just seemed like, obviously you had the momentum after winning the first set, and it seemed like Chris was trying to hit bigger. You did a good job at maintaining your level where, Chris is a fighter, any sort of, we're just waiting for that dip a little bit, because that's what Chris was kind of looking for to kind of get back in the set. But you did a great job at just lulling. You were still aggressive at times, but you weren't being over aggressive to where, you were spraying erratic balls that all of a sudden Chris could then build off of and kind of, get some confidence off of.
Yeah, and he almost got back in it, honestly. If he wins that game when I'm serving, and I think he had an add-out point, if that goes his way, this might be still going right now.
Yeah.
So I was very conscious about trying to just play smart, high-percentage tennis at that point and not letting that happen. Because when you're trying to close it out, obviously that's the hardest to do. And he was going to make me work for it. He wasn't going to give it to me, and I saw his level rise in those last two games, and I knew I was going to have to raise my level as well to finish that match out.
For the people at home, Chris, to piggyback off of that, Michael and I could see like a shift in your demeanor. I think for most tennis players, being down love 5 and obviously starting off the set in kind of a low point, most players would just kind of let that set just die and just like slip away. What is it about you, or like your mentality, your personality, or whatever, that you think it is that even down love 5 after a really frustrating first set loss and like a frustrating start to the second set, that you can clearly still, like, we could see you kind of turn it on, like, oh, this is my like chance, this is my opportunity. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I that's typically the way I am. I never give up, and I love the competition. That's why I like to play, and that's why I play a lot of tournaments and stuff. I just like to compete, and that's why I was so disappointed at the beginning of the set, because I just wasn't, like, I stopped. I felt myself when I got down 5-0, I was like, I wasn't even hardly sweating anymore, and I thought, I've got to get myself moving. And so that next game, I really focused on trying to get myself, I wasn't going to give up. And I thought, and really I did. I had that ad point, and I had a short ball in my forehand. I just missed it. Yeah. Maybe things turn around at that point. It was a really bad miss and super disappointing. But yeah, I always, that's one thing you can count on, is I'll fight till the end. So
do you think that's just kind of like in your nature?
It's just my personality, I think.
Okay.
Because that's where Ian and I could see, from up top, where, to give you some credit, where it's like, it wasn't where we and I both said, like, on the set point that you had, where we were saying that, Ian talked about you turned up that consistency up 5%, and you were making him have to win it. And on that point, it just was the significant thing that you were making him play, and he just happened to come up, with that forehand winner, and and it kind of, we could tell that it was like a crushing thing, but it's like, to give you credit where it's like, if either of us were coaching you, we would have said to not change anything, that you didn't do anything wrong on that point. It's just like, it just happened as one of those points where he just said, I'm gonna make that. And even just kind of seeing where sometimes, to where even like you said on that short forehand that you missed, it just seemed like the difference then on those big points where his forehand, he was able to kind of make a couple of them, whereas yours was just a little bit off. If you're kind of going into that, going into this matchup kind of again, what would kind of be some mental changes or things that you would try to like do differently?
Yeah, I don't know. I still feel like, if we started over, I think I would have the same game plan.
Okay.
I think I would try to hit a better ball. I think if I had it to do over again, I would start just trying to hit a heavier forehand at the beginning. I was trying to be aggressive with my forehand, and that's one thing I would change. I would hit a higher, just trying to hit it high with lots of spin, and I think it helps me get into rhythm. And then once I start sweating and I start the competition, I just start to play better, and that's what I didn't do at the beginning. I didn't do that. I got behind, and I didn't do that in the second set until the very end. So that's what I should have done.
And how much of a challenge is it when you have someone like Ryan, where it's like you're trying to get into some of these return games, but sometimes when he just knocks off that big first serve, and sometimes like you talk about like how challenging that kind of is, just as a returner, where you have a good return, you grind really well, but just having to kind of face that kind of like on like that couple of onslaughts.
It was hard. I really hate. I feel like I missed more returns than I should have. He has a good serve. I typically like a faster serve and stuff, and I don't think I got aced much at all. I feel like I should make those returns. His serve has kind of a weird spin. You have this way and you have this way.
Yeah.
And it was a little odd, and few times, I don't know if it was. I guess it was that, and maybe that, or like bad bounces too a few times, but. Yeah, it was just hard. I felt a lot of pressure a lot of times on the return. A few times I just didn't move, and it got into my body, which, it is what it is. But yeah, it was a difficult serve to return, for sure.
In hindsight, would you do anything different, Ryan?
Well, the game that I would have liked to play from the beginning is if I would have been able to get my forehand going, I would have liked to take the front part of the court more. I think that the best thing I could have done would be grind a point out, short ball near the service line, into the corners, finish with an overhead, but I wasn't very confident in my net game or that first approach shot. So I kind of played within myself, which I'm proud of myself for doing that, not going out and trying to blast balls and getting frustrated. So I think I played it to the best I could have played it today. On a different day, maybe I would have switched it up and tried to be a little more aggressive from the get-go, but...
And sometimes to then flip it and ask you, like, how difficult is it sometimes when you have someone that's a grinder and is just kind of, especially when the pace started to slow down and the tension was kind of up around 4.5, 5.6, how tough is it when he kind of slows that pace down to keep telling yourself nope, to kind of keep hitting through, where you ride that nervousness energy, and sometimes you tighten up and miss?
Yeah.
Like, how tough is it against someone who just keeps getting the ball back in play over and over and over again?
It's extremely difficult, and it depends on the situation too. So when that was 3-0, it's a lot easier to play that point and just be cool with taking your time and being patient than it is, when you're trying to close it out, or maybe it's his point when, it was 5-1 and he had that ad. So that's when it becomes difficult, but you just have to kind of roll with it, and you have to understand what you're trying to do and not play outside of your comfort zone in that moment. And it's really difficult with the nerves, and you feel yourself tightening up, and you want to push so bad, but if you give him that short ball, he's capable of coming in and putting it away. So you can't leave that ball short. You have to just keep hitting through it.
Well, thank you all for your time today. Yeah. I really appreciate it. Yeah. It was a fun match to watch. Any final thoughts, either Chris or Ryan, before we close up?
I have one. Like I said to you, I'm very disappointed in the way I played today. Just like that beginning of that set, I don't feel like I did a good job of competing. And so I just hope Ian gives me another shot and come back and be a better version of myself. So
absolutely.
And just thanks, guys, for having me. I really appreciate it. Like I said, it's kind of a bucket list thing I always wanted to cross off. Chris, it was great to play you. I would love to play you again if you ever want to do a rematch. Yeah. And then also give me sand set. Give me sand set.
I told you he was wanted because of the way their personalities are. That is going to be.
Well, I've known Mark for a long time now, and give me sand set.
Mark, you heard it here. You're being challenged.
I think that's the first post-match call-out.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Well, he texted me today being like,
Oh,
we
yeah.
need someone. So now, come
you
on,
go.
Mark.
Yeah. Well, no,
Love it.
yeah, he owes you one.
He does.
Yeah.
You're right.
That's it. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Michael, thank you. It was a lot of fun commentating with you.
Yeah.
Thanks for driving
Appreciate
up.
it. No problem.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Thanks to the players. Thanks everybody watching. And we'll catch you in the next match.
Thanks.
Thanks guys.